Hello, it's April 25th, 2011. Right before I left the United States, the dust cover's getting a little bit damaged. A friend gave me an old book called Vanishing France, which came out in the 70s, I believe. Long out of print. Let's see, New York Times Quadrangle, New York Times Book Company. Let's see what year this is. 1975, okay? And I like France a lot, but there are too many French people here. That's the problem. You know, this is where I had to go. This is where I had to come to live, because for various reasons the United States was no longer viable for me. And I've said many, many times in the past, immigration is very, very sad. It's very traumatic. People never get over it. Still, I'm advising many people in the United States to get their passports in order, to get another citizenship, another nationality, and to be prepared to leave the country entirely. And I get all sorts of excuses from people. Oh, I don't even have the money for a passport. My family is here. You know, look, I know it's not easy. When I left New York in 1994, I abandoned a co-op apartment, a car, bank accounts, you know, artwork, antique furniture. You know, it was really hard to do. I had to leave Ohio with $340 in a suitcase in 1977. Actually, that was 1978. And moved to Manhattan, and I didn't have a job or anything waiting for me. It was very hard. And at various other points in my life, I've abandoned everything. My first husband, I walked out. I was homeless. It was a very bad recession. He had forced me to quit my job. I had no health care. You know, I don't have a cigarette. So I know it's not easy. And I also hear people on YouTube saying that they're going to try to keep the family together. I don't recommend that. That's not the way that you escape. One has to go at a time and send for the others. You know, I'm sorry, that's reality. Anyway, if you've been wondering about, you know, moving to another country or moving to a rural area in another country, maybe starting a new life, a marriage, something like that, this story from 1966 might interest you. It's called The Bachelor's Fair. The sightseers came by the thousands to the Bachelor's Fair of Esparos in cars and buses, clogging the narrow mountain roads. Cupid never had a chance. Esparos is a hamlet lost in an idyllic valley under the shoulder of the Pyrenees in a land called Bigorre, where the men wear floppy berets and the women and cows work in the fields. 100 years ago, Esparos counted 800 people. Now there are 244. Most of them are named Dutu, and 27 are bachelors. The situation is no mystery, nor even unusual in the Pyrenees. The girls go off to the lowlands, as they say here, to work in hotels or factories, and they never return. Some of the boys leave, and they never return. Some of the boys leave too, but pride keeps many clinging to the family acres. Some of the acres are so steep that the men and women roll the hay down and then carry it on shoulder ricks to the barn. 3 months ago, Philippe Balagna, don't know how you pronounce that, a dapper 69-year-old bachelor who had retired from banking to settle in Esparos, proposed a village fair for the Pentecost weekend. It was to be a regional fete to introduce unmarried men and girls of the Bigorre in the hope that romance would flourish. What did flourish was publicity. The story flashed around the world. The regional chambers of commerce moved in, and the villagers suddenly found themselves blinking in the glare of a vast modern promotion. The mailman, Émile Dutu, putted in on his motorbike each day with a pouch of letters from lonely men and women of all ages as far off as New Zealand. I don't know why the men were applying, but, you know. Oh, you don't want to be gay in France. Let's not even go there. I am very happy at the news. I am 58 and in excellent health. I am rich. I earn 350 francs, which was $70 at the time, a month. I am 52. I want somebody gay. I would like a sentimental man, above all, not bald. A young man in Fontainebleau sent a heroic autobiography and said, I will trade my liberty for a very large fortune. I guess, you know, it attracted people of both sides of the gender divide. A young woman in Arlington, Virginia, said she would sell her 500 cows to marry the right man. Her letter was turned over to the bachelor mayor of an adjoining village. In the village, carnival workers were setting up their tents, and newsmen crowded the tiny square. Most of the villagers were in the fields, cutting hay or plowing with teams of cows and oxen whose heads were covered with sheepskin. Outside their stone houses, worn women in black watched the scene in silence. A white-haired young woman, the mother of 7 dutus, with an 8th on the way, said she did not know why the fete was being held. She paused, her lip trembling, then said, My faith, you know this life is hard. It must be better elsewhere. A very old Madame Dutu said, The young men should marry because the houses are falling, but I don't think much will come of it. Those women from Bordeaux and Toulouse, they won't take this painful life. A 20-year-old waitress in a nearby inn, looking out on a hillside where 3 women were turning hay, said, Yes, I'd like to get married, but not to a farmer. A bachelor of 65 hitched a 20-mile ride to the fair, cheerfully confident that he would find a wife, much as he would find a cow at a cattle fair. Asked what kind he wanted, he replied, Well, 2 women of 30 are better than 1 of 60. Cars filled the meadows and backed up for many miles. Peasant families, townfolk, and a sports car set, wearing smoked glasses, poured through the fields to see the fun. Barkers shouted, loudspeakers blared, 3 orchestras played, and in the church tower, small boys tirelessly rang bells that have seldom pealed for weddings. At one of the carnival sheds, a packed crowd watched grinning jokers, and grim-faced bachelors and spinsters register their availability. Each was given a red ribbon to wear and a private number that they were to use to identify one another. Many demanded to see their opposite numbers immediately and were disappointed to learn that they were on their own. About 300 men, nearly all bronzed men of the Bigorre, had signed up by late afternoon and stepped back into the crowd. About 75 women had also braved or welcomed the cameras and stares. All were apparently city women, near all of them middle-aged. The red-ribboned townsmen strolled around in pairs, and some found townsmen to talk to. It's pretty here now, one woman said, but what's it like in the winter? See, that's the question you have to ask. You have to spend 12 consecutive months in a place to get to know what it's like. Lost in the fringes of the crowd, watching the dancers and bright, noisy people, were little groups of silent, dark men in floppy berets, some of them wearing red ribbons. Nobody seemed to pay any attention to them. Okay. And the next story is about cockfighting. Maybe I'll do that at another time. It's a really good book. Of course, this is the France that I saw the last vestiges of when I moved here in 1994. It's all pretty much gone. My husband remembers his great-aunt and uncle in Brittany, who were brother and sister who never married and had a subsistence farm, never wore leather shoes. They wore wooden shoes. See, I have a pair of, they're called sabots. Last I checked, there were only 3 sabotiers left in France. This is a dress pair that I got in Brittany for, I think, 1 or 2 or 3 euros. I have another pair out in Brittany, but my in-laws absconded with them. So I have this old dress pair. These are my size, actually. You have to put a ribbon through them and wear very thick socks with them. But they last a lifetime. I mean, this is a dress pair, so there's no rubber on the bottom. But if you get the clog type, you just put rubber on the bottom periodically, and they're you know, you need them out there in the mud, and you know the grass is like razor sharp, and there are vipers out there and all kinds of things which will kill you. So actually wooden shoes were very practical. His great-uncle only owned one leather pair of footwear in his life because he had been in the military. And this was not unusual up until the 1980s in France. Not at all. And also, you know, the baguette, the French bread, those were only sold in Paris. My husband remembers going out to Brittany and going to buy bread for the family, and they didn't know what a baguette was out there. You know, they had these big country breads, you know. Of course, now that things are a bit more modern, you can get a baguette just about anywhere. Unfortunately, not made the old-fashioned way. So, you know, basically it's just plastic and inedible. But it's been interesting for me to see France change over the about 18 years that I've been here. I don't remember how long I've been here. Since 94. I came here in 93 and I moved here in 94, back from the United States. It takes a long time to close up your life in the United States. It took me about 8 months, 7 or 8 months, and it was very, very hard work, and it was a full-time job. But I recommend that you get out of the United States. I don't think a lot of people in the United States realize they are not likely to outlive this depression. You know, and a lot of the rest of the world is doing fine, except for natural disasters and stuff, which are going to be really fearsome in the next, this year and the next year, I think, up until 2014 at least. The Gulf Stream has stalled, and a lot of the earth is going to be underwater for that reason. So I hope this gives you some food for thought, and I hope you don't have any illusions about what it's like here in France. You know, I've gotten to like it here, you know, but I'm a very adaptable person. And back in the States, I lived in some really terrible places. You have to make it a little paradise where you are, wherever you are. You have to try to stay where you are and make it work. Because as I've said, immigration is traumatic. You'll never see your friends and family again. And you'll have to learn a new language, a new culture, a new legal system, and you'd really be surprised about what you miss the most. I do miss Americans. I've gotten used to the French. I'm much more at home with the French now, but I really miss Americans. I have no time to get into it, but don't have any big illusions, you know, about what it's like if you leave. But still, all that being said, I recommend that you just drop everything and really leave the United States, okay? I know you don't want to hear that. Okay, have a good day. Bye.